It's been 26 years since Jonathan Aitken wielded his simple sword of truth and then lied and lied and lied.
With the simple sword of truth and the trusty shield of traditional British fair play, so be it.
Now, having been to prison, found God and started work as a vicar, he's in a better position to provide counsel to MPs at the sharp end of the sleaze scandal than almost anyone. I visited the former Cabinet Minister at home this week to see what he made of it all and what he would now do differently.
Over the past fortnight, I wondered, as someone who has come out of the other end in one piece and had a fairly drastic career change, what you made of it all.
I think it's probably, in the broad sweep of history, fair to say that sleaze, it's only recently been called, but scandals to do with sex, money, impropriety, have been almost as old as politics themselves. But in terms of what's gone wrong now, yes, the press will have a field day pointing to Mr. X's consultancy or Mr. Y's level of earnings. And some of them, I think, do need to be better defined and regulated. I mean, clearly there is a kind of quantum level of, if you're earning fees as a lawyer, is there a level at which those fees become so large that your constituents and others says, wow, this shouldn't be happening, whereas another level, they say, well, it's rather sensible for Mr. XQC to be still practicing in the criminal courts when he's not on duty in the House of Commons. I mean, the House of Commons that I got into in 1974 was certainly not monochrome. It was full of impressive characters on both sides. And I worry about a House of Commons which is made up of so many people whose only real-life experience is through being researchers or special advisors or political consultants. I think the more people who've been in the real world and then come to the House of Commons, or even stay in the real world to some extent and contribute to the House of Commons, that enriches parliamentary democracy and doesn't diminish it.
Did prison and finding your vocation change your view of your own conduct?
Yes, enormously so. And first of all, just in simple terms, I was remorseful, repentant, penitent about the bad mistakes I'd made and the bad flaws of my own character. Immediately after I came out of prison, I was conscious that I was interested in God, wanted to explore further. It's called, in spiritual terms, the call, and you feel you're being called. And actually I resisted it for quite a long time. Anyway, in the end, as people usually do, change went along with what I thought I was called to do, and I've actually loved being a priest and prison chaplain ever since.
And now you're in a position to offer spiritual testimony and counsel to people at the lowest points in their own lives, people who've made pretty grave mistakes. I wondered what your survival tips, your spiritual advice to politicians caught up in this row would be.
You've got to flush all your resentments and bitterness and hatreds and anger down the loo and get started again. And fresh starts are around in large quantities. I don't believe that anyone is ever so badly ruined that they cannot make some form of a rather fulfilling fresh start. It may be completely different to the one they expected. I see a surprising number of, over the years, politicians who have been on their way to prison or coming out of prison, and some of them have gone on being angry, and some of them have made very good fresh starts in a quiet ways which nobody knows about. So I think you've got to do some fairly brutal self-assessment. I would, of course, advise praying, but listen to the voices and have the humility and the sense to start again quietly.